Welcome to Green and Growing, the podcast where we refuse to stay stuck and be ripe and rotting. I'm your host, Wade Perry, and I'm here to help you thrive in every corner of your life, whether it's mindset, business, or even fitness. Together, we're going to unpack the lessons and the game-changing strategies to help you keep green and growing. Today, it is my distinct pleasure, and I'm really excited about this next guest, Dan Gomer. Dan is a former middle school teacher who became a real estate entrepreneur. He's a 3-time author. He's a coach. He's a speaker. I'm beginning to wonder what he doesn't do. And now he leads a team of nearly 50 agents along the Colorado Front Range. And he's on a very simple mission, and that is to help other real estate professionals understand their why and build businesses that align with their values. Boy, do we need more of that in our industry. In this episode, we're going to dive into Dan's inspiring journey, explore how he overcame burnout, something that's near and dear to every successful realtor, and uncover his leadership insights to help you build a more intentional and fulfilling career. Dan, welcome to Green and Growing. Let's have some fun today.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here, and great intro, by the way. You do your homework. I love it.
Well, we try. You know, I figure it this way. If I walk in and I don't know a little, it's all going to go poorly. So we like to know a little bit about you and dig in. And just in talking to you off screen and reading all about you, you are one of the good guys of this business. And I am really, really excited to learn more. You know, you had a journey from being a middle school teacher, which has its own jungle-like atmosphere on certain days. Right. And you decided to jump into being a realtor. What was the turning point? When did you wake up and say, I need to get out of the classroom, but I still need to serve people? What was it that made that switch for you?
Yeah, well, you know, what I always tell people is I love the art of teaching. I just didn't like the job of public education. You know, it's a beatdown. I was there during the recession, and we were on pay freezes, and I was young and, you know, had no money, couldn't pay for anything. I was working my tail off. And, you know, to be totally honest, I found myself getting aggravated and irritated with the politics and everything that was going on with it. And after a few years in education, about 4 years in education, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I taught for 7. And, you know, I was like, this is going to kill me, you know? So that was my impetus to get out. I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I just started like informally interviewing everybody I met. Like, what do you do for a living? What do you like about it? What do you not like about it? And you know, it's kind of funny because I never ran into a real estate agent. Go figure. So I did this for a couple of years and hired a coach to help me figure out what I wanted to do when I grow up. And the night before I went in to go see her, I prepaid for 3 appointments. The night before I went to my very first one, I had a waking dream, and I was like, oh, real estate. Oh my gosh, how did I not think about this before? So walked into my meeting and was like, well, I know I already prepaid you, but I'm good. So
wow. So you wake up one day with an epiphany that yep. I'm here to serve. I love to teach, but this isn't the forum. And right. I have to tell you that in my 5 years of managing an office, the people that I really wanted to basically grab are people that were in the medical profession as, say, nurses or yep. teachers, because they truly have the heart of a servant. And to be a great realtor, I think you'd agree, there's not enough money in the world to do this for the money. You have to have a servant mentality. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's what I love about real estate. It really bridges that gap for me. I always knew I was going to get back into teaching. I just didn't know how. I was just going to sell houses. That was step one. And, you know, I always knew I was going to get back into it. And real estate has been a fantastic bridge because it provides that opportunity to serve people, your clients that you're working with, but also now as a team leader, I look at what real estate has created for me in my life and my family on a financial front and not on a financial front, like how much I've changed and grown and become a better human being through the endeavor of growing a real estate business. And now I get to help other people create that same thing for themselves. It's by far the most rewarding thing that I've ever done. And, it is about service for me. That's what makes it worthwhile. If it was just about the money, I would have left a long time ago, because there's way too much stress that comes along with it. You got to find that deeper meaning behind it. I feel like.
I absolutely agree 100%, because when you're either an agent on your team, or maybe it's your buyer or seller is calling you at 8 o'clock at night and they're hanging by a very thin thread, you and I know that it's not a big deal, but to them, the world's crashing. And you got to
Right.
get on that phone and you got to talk them off the ledge and let them know it's going to be okay. And this is a wash, rinse, and repeat, and it keeps on going. There's not enough money to make that go away. You've got to have that bigger, deeper why. What you just mentioned to me, it makes me think that teaching fills your cup. It really helps your life feel whole. And the old saying of give someone fish, you feed them for a day, teach them to fish, feed them for a lifetime. That's wonderful as a teacher, but in a school, but as a leader of a group of realtors, you get to literally show them how to change their families' lives, that then changes dozens of other families' lives in the form of their buyers and sellers. Have I got that somewhat right with you?
Absolutely. I call it generational growth, generational change. Some people might call it legacy or whatever, but the way that I look at it is, I say that all the time. I don't personally, on my team, I don't provide leads. Not that I don't
Okay.
ever refer deals out, but I don't provide leads. And not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just, that's not my model. My model is, if I give you a fish, then you're going to eat for a day. I want to teach you how to fish so you can eat for a lifetime. That's what I'm passionate about. And so, so I don't give leads. I try to teach people to grow something for themselves. And the way that I ultimately see it, and like down the line, and part of the reason why I'm at EXP, and part of the reason why I'm growing a team, is that legacy piece. I have visions of like going way bigger with this and really changing people's lives, because if I can bring somebody in and change their life on a financial front, but more importantly, change their life like internally, change the way they operate in the world, there is no telling how that's going to propagate through time, how that's going to change the lives of their friends, their family, their kids, the cashier at the grocery store. There's no telling how, if I can impact a person, long term, how that's going to play out. And if I can do that enough, I become irrelevant. It takes
Not
on a little bit of
insignificant, not insignificant, but
exactly.
irrelevant. I understand.
Exactly. Yeah.
You touched on something that I think you and I are going to share some similar thoughts on, and that is, when I would sit down and I was coaching, as I mentioned off screen, I coached boys football for 8 years, girls lacrosse for 12. Then I coached realtors for 5. I still coach realtors that they're not part of EXP. They're not even part of my team, but it's just part of me. And I would say to these parents, we're not here to win games. We're here to instill into your child the elements of integrity, discipline, character, pride, and teamwork. And if we get those right, we're going to win a lot of games. And if I'm hearing Dan Gomer right, it's not about teaching you how to be a realtor, but how do I teach you how to run your life better in totality? Because then I'm impacting not just you, I'm impacting you in your marriage, you with your kids, you with your health. Maybe it's your spirituality, whatever it may be. You're giving them things that are going to impact every area of their life, that then empowers them to go out and be a better realtor and serve. Am I somewhat on the right track of where you're going?
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. And by the way, I love that on the sport front. I feel like that's something in the age of AAU, or all these super expensive club programs and stuff like that, that has kind of fallen by the wayside sometimes. And so it's
Yeah.
great to hear that, because that's really what sports is all about, in my opinion as well. And kind of along that same front, the winning is the byproduct of the activity and the what's going on inside, right? So, I talk about mindset as if it is the it is everything. Your mindset is everything. How you see the world, how you show up in the world, how you speak, how you listen, how you interact with other people, like that all stems from mindset. And if you have the appropriate mindset and you're constantly working on getting better internally, the wins will take care of themselves. They just naturally appear seemingly out of thin air because you're doing the right things on a grassroots level.
That is so refreshing. I can't even begin to tell you, everything that we do in our lives has to begin here. Has to. If you just are focusing on the transaction or you're focusing on the commission, it doesn't work. You've got to focus on the bigger picture. Mindset is indeed everything. When you got into the business and you obviously jumped in both feet, grinding, if I'm not mistaken, you were rehabbing properties. You had an investment side of it. You had a transaction side of it. I mean, in looking at your bio, you've had your hand in just about every element of this business. Obviously, your mindset helped guide you through each of these different facets of real estate. And I'm going to share this with the group. You had a little bit of burnout at some point, as every great realtor does. Mm-hmm. And even though we all go through it, how did you overcome this?
Well, first of all, the journey has been a rocky one. Okay. There's been ups and downs and crashes and burns, and
so you're normal.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's not a straight line. It's this zigzaggy, jagged, whatever. And so it's not easy. And my mindset when I first got into real estate, if I'm being totally honest, was weak and not anywhere near where it is today. I was easily knocked off balance. I was easily flustered and angry and, focusing on the negative and all of these things. So I just want to make it really clear that these are learned behaviors. So if you're looking at your life, if you're looking at your business right now and you're going, well, yeah, but this is Dan, and this is Wade, and they got to figure it out. That's because we've worked on it. It's a learned behavior. And so you can do it too. And so it was all the trials and tribulations, by the way, that taught me that. If I was handed everything on a silver platter, I would not be who I am. So it's all the times I got kicked in the teeth that I learned how to become a better person, that I honed my skills. So I just like to start with that, because when we talk about burnout, burnout, as I see it, is a spectrum. It's not like I'm burned out or I'm not burned out. It's a spectrum. How burned out?
Relative degrees.
Right. How burned out are you? And so the way I see it is, like, sometimes we've got to go. We've got to grind. We've got to push it. It's hard. It sucks. We don't want to do it forever. We feel like we're burning out, and we just got to do it. And then there's other times where it's like we're just coasting and cruising, and one day we wake up and we go, I need to do something, and then there's everything in between. So when we talk about overcoming burnout, the way I see it is it's about how do we intentionally move along that spectrum. So that starts with understanding, number one, where am I? Am I burned out, or am I being lazy, for lack of a better term? It's not the right word, but where am I on the spectrum? And then what do I need to do to move along that spectrum? And so if I'm super burned out and I'm super stressed and whatever, okay, great, that's where I'm at. Then it comes down to analyzation, like what's happening in my life, what's working that I need to keep doing, what's not working, what's frustrating me. Am I frustrated for the right reasons, or do I need to strengthen my own mindset? Because there's been times in my career where I get all pissed off about stuff, and looking back on it, I'm like, man, I was just being weak. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It was just a time in my life where I was not prepared to handle what I was in. And now I can handle it standing on my head. So, having changed my mindset at that time in my life when I was feeling overwhelmed, if I could have changed my mindset, I might have been able to overcome that burnout just in a simple change in the way that I'm thinking about the situation or the world. So it's a broad question, but once again, it's just how do we
Mm,
find ways to move along that spectrum so that we can grind. Like right now, I'm in grind time. And I have to
so am
remind
I.
myself, hey, you're in grind time and it's okay. Go grind. And eventually it's not going to be like
Hmm.
that forever. So that's kind of how I deal with it these days, at least.
You know, what you just the process or the path that you've taken from saying mindset is everything. It's a learned behavior, which I could not agree more with, and it's a learned behavior from, I think, two different perspectives. I'm guessing you're a reader.
Yeah, yeah, I read quite a bit.
And I my goal is 24 books a year. I know guys that read 50. I know guys that read 10, and I think that working on your mindset is really a product of two things. One is pouring into yourself content that allows you to grow and develop and become more emotionally aware of where you are at a certain point in time, and learning from other people that have been there and done that on, okay, how do I pivot? How do I navigate? How do I handle this situation? And there's another other side of the coin is you cannot get really good at changing your mindset without actually getting dirty, getting in the fire, and getting burned. And it doesn't all have to be that way. If you just do it that way without reading, it's hard, really hard. If you're just reading books, you're never going to be able to change your mindset because you have to be able to do it on the moment, on the fly, and be able to handle it when the fire's hot. The other
Yep.
thing that you mentioned is that it's fluid. You're constantly moving back and forth between periods of, hey, things are cruising to it's grind time. And I want to couple that for a moment and see your thoughts on this between I'm in grind time, I'm not, it's fluid. And the analogy is like an airplane. We're flying to Hawaii, you and me. And when we realize that the plane is off course 98% of the time, the pilot needs to be aware and make minor adjustments. And so when we think about adjusting our mindset in this fluid path, I think we have to be pilots and be able to be aware of where are we? Am I taking good care of my body? Am I taking good care of my mind? Am I getting good sleep? Do I have other things that are filling my cup so that I can be aware of when it's time to shift? Does that
Yeah.
resonate?
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess what comes up for me is so it's that intentional piece first of all, right? So it's about like intention is a I think it starts with a conscious thing. So it's like consciously stopping and going, checking in, like I feel like I'm off course. Like that's where it starts. That's where intention starts. I feel like I'm
Check
off
the
course.
pulse.
Yeah, what do I need to do? That's intention, right? So if you do that alone, that's going to help you move along that burnout spectrum. And I think the other thing too, I don't know if I read it somewhere or heard somebody say it, or I just started practicing it, but one thing that has completely changed my life was when I'm in these moments that are just heavy and difficult. I mean, I think back to not that long ago when I got into a really bad real estate deal and lost, and I'm not exaggerating, our entire savings, lost everything. Luckily, we didn't lose our house, and we're bouncing back. That was a really hard time in my life. If that would have happened to me 5 years earlier, it might have broken me. But it happened at a time in my life where I had been practicing the skill of this is an opportunity. Just changing the word from problem to opportunity completely changed my life because I looked at that and I said, I can't learn how to not do that deal again. I can't learn how to help somebody else avoid doing that. I can't learn how to overcome huge adversity without that happening. It's impossible. I had to learn that lesson, and it made me a better person. It made me a better father. It made me a better husband. It made me a better team lead. It made me a better everything. But had I seen it as just the problem, then it would have broken me. It was looking at it as
Do
like
you, first
opportunity.
of all, thank you so much for being real. And everybody, that has achieved great success has had moments that are humbling, that are trying, that we're not necessarily proud of at the moment, but we're human and we got to accept that. And we have a choice. Do we just roll over and die? Do we pick ourselves up and do we get going? And I'm gonna throw this out. Would you say that that moment when you had a big setback, was that one of the, say, two or three most trying times of your life?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I know the two, and that was one of them.
Okay. So we don't have to go through those, but when you have that moment when your back's against the wall and you really are like, I gotta go, I gotta fight. I'm not gonna. I owe it to my family. I owe it to my friends. I owe it to my colleagues. I owe it to me. I'm going to figure this out. No, I don't like what happened. I made a mistake, whatever it was that led up to this, but I'm going to get it. I'm going to go. And like you said, 5 years earlier, you probably wouldn't have had the mental makeup to be able to shake yourself out of the misery and the dismay to go forward, take action, and be able to rebound the way you have to incredible levels. For me, it was cancer. And I'll never forget the day that I got the diagnosis, and my doctor happened to be somebody I knew just by dumb luck. And I remember him asking me, "You okay?" I said, "Yeah, I'm going to beat it. It's just how and when." And I knew at that moment that I was fragile. I was broken. I had things that were going on in my life that were toxic. Um, not drugs and alcohol, but people. There were other elements of lifestyle that just were not pouring in. I was managing an office of 75 realtors. I'm working 90 hours a week and I'm just not taking care of me. And at that moment was my wake up of, you got to do this differently. And at that moment, my life's on the line, my family's on the line. And you know what? It was hard, but I'm in a way better place because of it. And would you agree that you don't know sweet until you taste sour?
Absolutely. There's no
So
white without
with
dark. No, like
so without that moment, as much as it really sucked to be in it, you wouldn't be as full and enriched in your life today without it. True?
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
And
So go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, I've heard all of these people talk about like, adversity is your greatest teacher and, all these kinds of things. And for a long time, I was just like, yeah. You're rich. You're this, you're that, whatever. You don't know what I'm going through. And then finally, what I realized is my life got way better when I just accepted the fact that, oh, this is my opportunity to grow. Cool. Let's
Mhm.
It sucks, but let's roll.
Exactly. We can't grow and develop and achieve at levels that we dream and desire without being stretched, tested, challenged, punched in the face. Without those things, we're all going to stay right where we are.
Yep.
Greatness isn't going to come without those things. So the first thing in that fluid mindset is learn to embrace it. It's okay. I can't change it. This is a situation. I got to change how I'm thinking about it, approach it, go get it. You talk a lot about knowing your why and defining your purpose. How is it? What's Dan's why?
Yeah, well, great question. And just like with mindset, that's a journey, right? Understanding why we do whatever it is that we do. It's a journey, constantly trying to evolve it. But my belief is that we don't do anything without, at some level, knowing why. If we're running to the bathroom as fast as we can, I promise you there's a reason why. If we run the stoplight, there's a reason why. If we're nice to the cashier, there's a reason why. We don't do anything without a reason why unless we are literally held down and forced to do something. However, our reaction, even in those situations, the way we react, we do for a reason. We know why that is on an inherent level, even if we don't know it consciously. And so for me, when I talk about burnout and I talk about creating something for yourself, that's the first question that I always ask when I'm doing coaching with people and things like that is, well, why? Why is that important to you? Why do you want $1 million, right? Because nobody wants $1 million. They want what $1 million represents. So what does it represent to you, and why is that valuable? And so at the end of the day, I believe that if we can get down to the why, then we can get down to the motivation. And so sometimes the motivation might be because I want to be seen. Okay, great. Well, we can do that without you doing this thing that you're working on that you absolutely hate. We can get you seen in a way over here that you actually enjoy and you live a better life. So if we can get to the underneath everything, to the actual why you're doing something, we can find different strategies to achieve it in a way that aligns with the kind of person that you are. And so for me, I've done a lot of self-discovery. I've gone through PSI seminars. It's a personal development seminar kind of thing. I've done lots of personal growth training and all sorts of stuff. Ultimately, what I've come down to is my why is I want to create generational growth. And why is that important to me? Well, I've been so depressed that I thought about taking my own life. I've been beat down so much that I just wanted to give up. I didn't have a horrible childhood, but I had a pretty rough childhood. I've seen a lot of stuff. I've done stuff I'm not proud of, all of these kinds of things. And at the end of the day, the way I look at it is, if I'm going to be here, it'd be a hell of a lot easier to just give up. So if I'm not going to give up and I'm going to do something, what am I going to do? And I believe that there's an inherent desire within every human being to make the world a better place. I don't know where it comes from, but it's there. And that's what I'm tapping into. I want to make the world a better place. How do I do that? Well, I take me out of the equation. I make it so that you are so on fire that you go light someone else on fire, and you make them so on fire that they go light someone else on fire. And eventually it's like, Dan, who? Once again, I'm irrelevant, not insignificant. I love that, by the way, but irrelevant. And to me, that means that I'm doing something worthwhile. And so that's my why. That's why I have my team, our team. That's why I work so hard in real estate. That's why I work so hard with my kids to try to get them to, move forward in their lives in a productive way, because I want to leave this world with a legacy that goes well beyond, the waves go well beyond anything I ever did.
That is exactly what our world needs. It's what our industry needs. It's what every family needs. You look around at our society today, and if you're at all like me, and maybe I'm just becoming that old guy where I am really concerned about the state of our society, where it is, what direction it's heading. And I think there's a lack of leadership, and it starts at the family level. I think there's a lack of accountability. I think there's a lack of self-pride. And I think there's not enough people that are telling young people that, hey, you're good enough. You can be great and you can do great things. And so to listen to you share your why of leaving this place a better place, one person, one family, one community at a time, and letting those ripples spread, then you are a gem. And when you're having a rough moment, I think I got a couple more laps around the sun. My gray hair and my wrinkles are showing it. You're having a rough day. I want you to remember this. You're one of the good guys. Okay. What you're doing is something that we need. And I want to dive into this a little deeper. You've got nearly 50 realtors on your team. Leadership, in order to keep 50 people, leadership is critical. And I guess my question is, what do you think the most important qualities are of an effective leader, not just in real estate, but in our society today?
Yeah.
What do you think that the things are that these people need and want?
Well, and when I have you on my podcast, Leaders Got to Lead, I'm going to ask you the exact same question.
You got it. You got it. I have my thoughts, so I'll be happy to share.
Love it. Love it. Yeah. I think that once again, I never, I think we might have talked about this before we started recording. I never really saw myself as a leader.
Mm.
I won't go into too much detail, but when I was younger, I was always like you were, I was that kid who nobody believed in, right? And for whatever reason, I was always like, oh yeah, well, F you, watch this, so, I never thought that I was a leader, never felt like a leader. But, I'm starting to realize that everybody is a leader. And once we embrace that, it forces us to be better. Because if we accept the fact that we are leading somebody, even if it's just ourselves, we're leading the people that we interact with every single day out in the world. We are leading by example. And when we accept that and we take it seriously, it forces us to be better. So I would challenge
Mm.
everyone watching this to know that you are a leader. And so what are the attributes of a leader? Man, we talk about this a lot on the podcast that's me and Scott Harshman are doing. And there's really no one good answer. But if I had to boil it down, like, I think it comes down to, number one, putting people first.
Mm.
Uh, if you're a leader, then who are you leading and where are you leading them, and that kind of thing. And by the way, there's a great book out there called High Road Leadership by oh, come on, he's like super famous. How can I not think of his name? Big time speaker, been doing it for like 50 years.
Okay.
It'll come to me. But
Brian Tracy.
no, but in that vein,
Okay.
it'll come to
All
me.
right.
But
Sure.
anyways, it's called High Road Leadership. And so there's a difference between, you can lead and be a low road leader, or you can lead and be a high road leader. So I guess I'm going to qualify, if somebody wants to be a high road leader, you got to put people first. And you got to be constantly trying to grow yourself, make yourself better, because if you're not growing, they're not growing. And then the last thing is authenticity counts. I thought that to be a leader, I had to be something else. I had to be a leader,
Mm.
which is outside of me. And what I finally realized was, if I am authentic and true and genuine to the way I roll and my beliefs and my values, and I'm very clear about what that is, and I present that to people, some people are going to go like, whatever, I don't care, and they're going to leave. And some people are going to be like, let's roll. This is awesome, And so naturally attracts the people who resonate. And it's not that one way is right or wrong, but if you're authentic, you're going to attract the people that you want to be surrounded by, and that's going to make you a more effective leader.
What you just said hit me really hard. And I've read a lot of books on this type of subject. I've not read that one, but it's going in my queue immediately. But something that you just hit that was so, so powerful. And that is, you can get in front of a group, you can get them fired up, you can get them inspired, you can get them to go out, go through brick walls. But if time goes by and they begin to see that that was just words and that you're not walking the talk, you're not authentic, you're not genuine to what you were preaching, then those individuals will stray, they'll leave you, they'll go somewhere else. But
Right.
when they see a leader who leads by example, who walks the talk, some may not follow you at all because you're just not pouring their cup of tea. And that's okay. I remember when I took over the office in Cherry Creek, and I said to the president of Coldwell Banker, I said, I'm probably going to lose a third of the office in the first month because they're not going to like my cup of tea. They're just not going to like what I'm pouring. But I can tell you the people that stay are going to stay forever. And you have to walk the talk. You've got to be genuine, because otherwise they're going to know it's just lip service. And so I've got to think, I'm just going to guess that the majority of the people that you're leading as part of your organization have been with you for quite some time. I'll bet you don't have a lot of rollover and attrition, do you?
I don't really, no.
See, that's and
by the way, that's something that I really hang my hat on. It's something that I'm the most proud of, for sure.
You should be. And I'm going to share here's an example. So I would recruit one agent per month when I was running the office. So 12 per year. Another large branch in the tech center would recruit 50 to 60 a year. And our 12 would outproduce their 50 because we hired the right people who wanted to drink this Kool-Aid. And everybody around drank the same Kool-Aid, and away they went. And so we just didn't lose people. And so I completely get what you're going at. And that is, you got to be true. You got to be genuine. And they have to know that you're more interested in them every day of the week. And that's what changes things. Let me ask you this. For agents and leaders who feel stuck or burned out, and they're not quite sure where to go, they haven't read the books, maybe this is their first time into a rough patch in their career, what advice would you give them? There's probably even people on your team that maybe have been grinding and they're butting up against a plateau and they're getting frustrated. What guidance do you give them to maybe slow down, refocus, and redirect?
Great question. Once again, I think it comes down to, if you're dropped in the middle of a forest and you're like, okay, find home. It's the first thing you got to do. You got to figure out where you are. Where are you at? What's working? What's not working? And then, okay, great. So now you know where you are. Now, where are you trying to go? And what needs to happen in between? What are you up against? What are the obstacles that you're going to find, and those kinds of things? And so it's for me, when I find myself losing steam, the first thing I always ask myself is, why? Why am I doing this thing in the first place? Why am I losing steam? What's happening? Right? Get the lay of the land. What's going on? And a lot of times I'll find the answer right there. Like, oh, yeah. That's right. Because if I push through this pain, it means this, and this. And oh, yeah, right. Okay. Time to get after it. Like, you just got to tough through it. Or, hey, this is not the right move. You should not be doing this right now. Move over here. Okay, great. But oftentimes I can only do so much myself. I'm very, very, very lucky to have an amazing wife. I've been married to her this summer. It'll be 20 years.
Good for you. That's a badge of honor in today's society.
Yeah. So, and she's I bounce stuff off of her all the time, and the point being that don't do it alone. One of the greatest things about being on a team, even if you're a top producer, one of the great things about being on a team or team adjacent is you have resources. And just because you produce more than somebody doesn't mean that agent who's only done one deal can't blow your mind. And so by tapping into the resources that we have around us and asking questions and saying, hold on, I'm not sure what I need to do. What am I missing? It's really easy for outsiders to poke holes in everything and be like, well, do you see this and this and this? And you're like, oh, no, I didn't see any of that. When we're in it, we don't see it. So leverage the people around you and get surrounded by people who are going to move you forward. That's going to be huge with getting you over those humps. And then, internally, just figure out where you're at, where you're going, why it's important, and put a plan in place.
This is exceptional stuff. I can see why your team doesn't like to leave. I can see why people keep following you. It's palpable. Dan, I put it this way: if I didn't have my own group at EXP, I'd probably want to come work for you. This is absolutely fantastic. I want to give you the forum for a moment, open mic, and I want you to kind of just think about, you're now going to talk to young adults, and you're going to talk to them about secrets of success. What should somebody because we had a generation that likes to talk about failure to launch out of COVID. And I think you're one of these few guys that probably has a recipe for these types. You now are talking to young Dan or anybody else that's in this younger generation. What advice and guidance would you give to this group of people that's 22 to 28 about what should you be doing with your personal life? How are you comporting yourself? What should you be doing to put yourself in a better position to be successful going forward?
Yeah, great question. Really like that question. So It's a loaded question.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
I believe in simplification, right? The simple solutions, the best. And when we overcomplicate things, we freeze. So I would boil it down to the most simplest components that I possibly can. And to me, that is show up. They're gonna write show up on my gravestone when I die, because it is everything. You know, I mean, your
You
mindset
can't
is what,
win if you don't show up.
right. Your mindset is what drives that, by the way, right? So focus on your mindset. You know, that's number one. Focus on your mindset. How are you growing? How are you getting better? How are you improving yourself in your life? That's number one. Number two is show up. That means literally and figuratively. Just showing up to the meeting and zoning out is not showing up. You know, you need to physically be there, and you got to show up ready to go, ready to learn, or whatever it is that you need to do. You're there doing a listing appointment, you are there and you are locked in. You're not checking your phone, you know, all that kind of stuff. So, number one, work on your mindset. Number two, show up. And number three, consistency. If I need to walk from here to there, I cannot magically appear over there. I have to go step by step by step. And if I stop after the 10th step and I need to go 100, I'm not going to get there. And so
Mm-mm.
I have to consistently step and step and step and step and step and step and step. It gets monotonous. It gets old. It gets tiring. It gets all of these things. You wonder what's going on. You wonder if it's ever going to pay off. You want da, 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 da. Forget all that noise. I'm making a step. I'm making a step. I'm making a step. I'm making a step. Make your life easy by simplifying, and be consistent. So that would be my advice. If you can do those three things, watch out. There's just nothing that can stop you.
That is three really awesome things. I'm going to summarize some things here in a moment. One last thing before I kind of summarize and we wrap this up and let you get back to helping people. Is there anything you'd like to give away to people and offer for people? Anything you want to do to promote your business, your book, etc.?
Yeah, I appreciate that. So I'll upload or give you a couple copies of two of my books. One's I'm full of it, and so are you. Let's change the world together, which is more of a mindset
That
book.
is a great title. Let me ask you this, Dan. If people are curious about your group and they are thinking, hey, you know what? And maybe I want to be part of Dan's group. Maybe I want to be a realtor, what have you. How do they get a hold of you? If you don't mind, share an email address or a phone number.
Yeah, absolutely. You can just email me. It's super easy. Daniel Gomer1@gmail.com or 303-261-5278. Call me. Let's go grab lunch or coffee. Would love to talk to you and see if what we're doing can help you move forward in your business and your life.
Well, Dan, I'm going to share this with the audience for a moment. I've been around this planet now almost 59 times. I've read hundreds of books. I've had the pleasure of meeting people like Norman Vincent Peale in person. I'm going to tell you, Dan, you are a real gem. And if people aren't willing to reach out to you, grab coffee, read your book, and lean in, then shame on them. But here's some of the things that I took away. Number one, if you're stuck and you're not sure, go interview a lot of friends. I thought that was a brilliant, brilliant move that you made, because you can't know it all in here. Tap into the collective wisdom of people around you who know you, who you love and trust, and you'll learn some things. Number two, mindset is everything. If you're not protecting your mindset, if you're not strengthening your mindset, it doesn't matter what you want to do. You're not going to be able to get there. The spectrum between absolute chaos and peace is very fluid. And we've got to be able to recognize when we're in one. But most importantly, the word that you brought up was why. Why am I in this place right now? And how do I change whatever it was that put me here? Like maybe somebody's 50 pounds overweight. Push away from the table. Why? I love your comment. Why leads to motivation, not the other way around. It's brilliant. The next thing was to put other people first. You know, it's funny when you're coaching your team, and I'm going to ask you this question: when you're coaching your guys, when you're leading your guys, and you know this as well as I, a newer agent closes their first sale or their first big sale or whatever it may be, and they are as high as a kite, right?
Yeah.
I mean, their energy is just, it's bursting. True or false? You are more excited than they are.
Oh, absolutely. Like I love seeing them win. I would much rather see them win than actually go sell a house myself. For
I
sure.
couldn't agree more. You know, watching, I just got a text from a guy that I brought into the business, and he was young at the time. This is now 12 years ago. He now owns 3 houses, and he's been very successful. And now he's brought on a guy that's in his young 20s. And he texted me last night. He says, "My God, what possessed you to bring me on? I can't believe what's going on here." I said, "Just keep pouring in. When they get that first sale, you're going to be more excited than they are." And I knew you were going to answer that way. Another great gem that you shared: when you're in a jam, when you're in a tough spot, ask yourself, where am I? Where am I right now? Because I can't get out of this until I know where I am right now and how did I get here, and then start moving along. The next thing was, don't do it alone. The world's hard enough as it is. Everybody, you got people around you. You got Dan, you got me. You know what? There's plenty of resources that are out there to help. You just have to raise your hand and ask, and there will be people that will come running. True?
Absolutely.
And then the quick wrap up is in your 3 points. Mindset is everything. Showing up and being present, and then being consistent. Keep doing it. Dan, you are, and the thing is, I'm getting the hunch that you did not grow up in a house that showered you with books and lecture series and audio tapes. I'm guessing that wasn't your upbringing, was it?
That was not, no.
So somehow, some way, you figured out how to harness into this. And the most beautiful thing is, you obviously read a lot of the right guys because you're wanting to give it back to everybody else. This is awesome. I am just, go ahead.
It's one of the things that I'm most grateful for. I don't know how it happened. But a lot of things happened in my life that I'm like, holy cow, I had that not, right? Like those turning points, you know, like, oh, I'm so grateful that the first book that I read, personal development book, was How to Win Friends and Influence People. And then I didn't read another book. And then about a year or two later, somebody gave me Wishes Fulfilled by Wayne Dyer, and it was game over after that. I just couldn't stop after that. So, you know, very grateful. If you're in a leadership position, give somebody a book. It might change their life.
It's really interesting you say that, Dan. I'm looking across my office. I keep 5 copies of 20 different books on my shelf just to send out to people when they're in a certain spot. They need this book, or they need this book. And okay, so can we commit to share each other's book lists?
Absolutely. I've got a list.
Okay. I have a list of what I read each year, and then I have a list of timeless titles. And so I'm going to share those with you. You can share them back with me. And if anybody watching wants those lists, send a DM to Dan, send a DM to me. We'd be happy to share our lists, because we're out there reading these books so that you don't have to read them all. We've distilled it down to a really, really good list. And I think you've probably taken hundreds and boiled it down to 20, 30, 40, 50.
Yeah. It's
perfect.
About that. 30, 40.
Dan, maybe. Before we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to share with the group?
Oh, just thanks for having me on. This was such a great conversation, and right back at you. I mean, anybody that's in your sphere, they're very lucky, because you're obviously a great leader and mentor, I'm sure. So thank you for the opportunity. And when I was younger, I truly believed that I was on my own, to the point that I remember having conversations with my wife saying, how come nobody will help me? How come nobody will help me? Why am I doing this all alone? It was all a bunch of BS. It's not true. So reach out.
That was the voice in your head.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
You kept telling yourself that, which leads me to Have you read the book, What You Say When You Talk to Yourself?
I haven't read that one. No.
Great book. It's part of my timeless titles. You'll get the list. For those of you out there, what you say to yourself, your brain will believe. It doesn't matter what you say, it takes it as truth. So I'm going to quote Stuart Smalley. I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like me, right? Dan, it's been an absolute joy. I cannot wait for you and I to get together for coffee and share notes, because I think you and I could share a lot of content that would help a lot of people. And who knows what our future ventures are going to look like, but I think you and I got some more time together. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us in this episode of Green and Growing. If this episode sparked something in you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe wherever you listen. And stay connected with us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube for more inspiration and exclusive content. Remember, life is not about life is not about perfection. It's about progress. Cheers to Green and Growing. I'm going to see you in the next episode. Welcome, everybody, to the latest episode of Green and Growing. I'm your host, Wade Perry of the Perry Properties Group at EXP.